My name is Grant DuVall, and I am a senior biology major at West Virginia University and an undergraduate researcher with the SURE program. My project is the exploration of cognitive impairment variability in patients with opioid use disorder. And for a little background, it is estimated that people with opioid use disorder experience on average 3 to 6 non-fatal overdoses. Using the simple model here, you can see when drugs lead to overdose, respiratory depression can occur if left untreated, which can lead to oxygen deprivation in the brain, termed hypoxia, and thus cognitive impairment. Moving to this infographic here, as you can see, it only takes a minute without oxygen for brain cells to begin to die and 3 minutes for serious brain injury to occur. The circumstances of overdose are often very different across substance users, and the multiple factors that affect severity of hypoxic injury and results in cognitive impairment is largely understudied. The primary aim of this project is to identify the association of such factors with cognitive impairment in patients with opioid use disorder. For this study, we analyzed data subsets of 31 subjects that have overdosed within the past year. We implemented surveys to record subject drug behaviors, history of use, and the events before and after their most recent overdose. We measured the cognitive functioning of each participant through the NIH Toolbox Cognition Battery, a standardized instrument that measures cognition across domains often impaired in substance users. This instrument has a mean score of 50, with higher scores meaning better cognition and lower scores meaning worse cognition. Taking this data, we utilized the statistical software Stata to run analyses to find associations across variables of overdose circumstances known to be associated with cognitive impairment. Factors of interest included use of Narcan using alone, age of first overdose, number of drugs used, and types of drug classifications used 24 hours prior to overdose. This is termed polysubstance use and can be defined as either the use of greater than one substance simultaneously, but can also be defined as the use of multiple compounds simultaneously, such as combining a sedative with opioids or methamphetamines. We analyzed our data with both definitions in mind. To speak on our results, we found the higher number of drugs used prior to overdose is associated with lower NIH Toolbox Cognition Battery scores, thus worse cognition. Additionally, we found that the younger the age of first overdose is associated with lower cognition scores, and respondents who reported using drugs alone during their most recent overdose also reported lower cognition scores. Finally, our analyses did report that subjects who received Narcan during their last overdose showed lower cognition scores as well, which is contradictory to our hypotheses. This Venn diagram lays out the drug combinations used prior to last overdose among those within our sample. Of our sample, 61.3% used more than one drug compound in the 24 hours prior to their overdose. This result being comparable to 2018 national averages of 62.6% of opioid deaths co-occurring with at least one other non-opioid drug. Turning to the graph here, you can see our mean at the red dotted line at 50. There is a slight downward trend of worsening cognition as more drug compounds are combined 24 hours prior to overdose. Our sample sizes are quite limited, and these results are preliminary, but our analysis did show significant decreases in cognition between those who used opioids only and those who used the combination of opioids, meth, and sedatives. Existing literature does suggest a potential mechanism for brain injury when methamphetamines and opioids are combined. Cardiovascular events from methamphetamine use, such as strokes, may trigger a secondary response of respiratory depression that results in low oxygen for the brain. Finally, our results are similar to those of other studies, as it has been shown there is an association between methamphetamine use and worsened cognitive functioning. There are many limitations to our study, the primary limitation being that our sample size is again smaller and it is a single site study, so it cannot be generalized to the entire population. Additionally, we used self-reported data, so comprehensive drug toxicology would be required through urine drug screens to actually confirm compounds active during overdose. Finally, more research will be needed as this is only a preliminary study. Investigations are needed to understand the contradictory findings of lower cognition scores in the subjects who received Narcan during their most recent overdose. We believe this to be because of some sort of survival bias, suggesting that opioid users who are receiving Narcan go on to live while their cognitive bias is going to be reported, whereas those who do not receive it have either not experienced as severe of an overdose or do not survive, similar to a selection bias. We are also interested to investigate whether riskier drug behaviors are associated with worse cognition prior to overdose. Thank you.